In countries like Afghanistan, when we talk of the human rights, first there is a traditional layer. Secondly, there is Sharia and Islamic rule, the second layer. The third is the customary laws, and the fourth is the rule of law. Having the human rights as a new and modern values to penetrate into the minds of the people, to attract them to understand and believe and accept human rights is not an easy issue. When we tell them that you have the right to food, to health, and so, they say that we do not meet our basic needs. How does it make sense to talk of the human rights for us? And these are the challenges for us, really.
I think the most important thing for an educator is to think about what the context is of that education activity. Who's involved, who are the stakeholders, who are the participants, what are the key issues, what are the resources, what are the strengths, what are the needs. Then ideally those that are participating in that activity are able to impact on how that activity is developed. And part of that is to look at, well, what are the outcomes or the results of that activity. And so educators need to be very aware right from the beginning of what it is that they're trying to do.
It's very much linked with that, because in our annual reports, the regular reporting that we do and monitoring that we do on regular basis give us some indications where the problems are and where we should focus on in our training and capacity building programs with the government officials, especially security agencies with issues related to torture. For example, we have realized that we have to focus more working with the civilian police. We have targeted also the interrogation, because generally torture happens in the first period of detention. It is really very obvious that when we target our programs, we have to look at those specific officials who are responsible for that. Sometimes some of them who have the courage to speak out, they would tell you that we have no other way to extract information.
So a situation analysis is about gathering the information you need in order to inform how you do an activity. So if you were looking at a program on torture in a detention facility, the key people to be involved in that would be that detention facility itself. What is the situation in the facility? You could find that out through conversation, you could find that out through statistics. Maybe the NHRI has numbers of complaints that might come to it. You gather all the information you can. Ideally, you are involving people in developing that activity. So the partnerships and the collaborations are really important.
The third step then is developing the right methodology for that group. How do we communicate addressing their needs in ways that they will understand, that will be convincing, and that will bring about the kinds of transformation that we look for. The most effective form of education, in my experience, is education that talks about the real experiences of human beings.
Once that's decided, then it is about what the evaluation and monitoring tools are going to be. So once you know what's going to happen, then how are you going to, what's the evidence? How are you going to know that you've actually got there?
When we actually thought about running a campaign on the Domestic Violence Act, because it's new, we actually wanted to first get across the message that domestic violence is now an offense, and that there is actually a mechanism for victims to address and actually get protection from. A lot of the times when new acts and laws are enacted, people actually who are the key stakeholders of a law, they don't actually know about the laws. And one of the very interesting components that we actually built into the campaign was the door-to-door campaign.